Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we design a nuclear reactor to be worse than Chernobyl. Because this week we watched Boomtown.
Written by Russell T.
Russell T. Directed by Joe...
It's a Hearn. It's a Hearn.
A Hearn.
I'm pretty sure it's a Hearn. I actually just guessed, but we're going to go with a Hearn.
I mean, this is the second time I've had to say his name, and probably the second time that I've maybe messed it up, so...
And aired on June 4th, 2005.
Rapidly coming to the end of the season.
I just got the title of this, Boomtown, and I didn't get it for like the whole episode. I just got it right now.
Yeah, is it because Margaret wants to blow up the town? That's why it's Boomtown?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just checking because I never really understood the title. And
It's pretty obvious now that I get it, but...
Yeah. But, I mean, it's still a pretty bad title.
Because of Cardis' burgeoning industry. No, I don't know. No.
The working title for the story was Dining with Monsters. So...
It's interesting. Yeah, they do dedicate a lot of time to dining. The monster's Mickey, right? No. No.
Mickey's the least monstrous out of everybody in this story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe except for Jack. Jack kind of is just there. This is his sophomore story, and he's kind of just there.
Yeah, but he has some fun moments, I think.
Yeah, he's just sort of like the comic relief.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
Before we start, this story wasn't the originally intended story for this slot. Apparently, Russell T. wanted to get John Abbott, I think it was John Abbott, might have been Paul Abbott, to write a story for this slot. And apparently Russell T.'s original idea for that story was that it was going to be revealed that the Doctor had been, or Jack would find out that the Doctor had been jumping through Rose's timeline, basically manipulating events in her past to make her the perfect companion. And the line from last week when the Doctor mentions the red bicycle Rose got when she was 7 was supposed to be an allusion to this story. Sources kind of differ on how much of that script actually got written before Abbott was like, I don't have the time to finish this. So Russell T was like, guess I'll write something completely different and fill the episode.
Probably a good thing. That idea kind of sounds like it would make me hate the Doctor.
Yeah, and it sounds way darker than the show has basically ever gone. Although it is an interesting idea, I'll give it that.
I guess. Well, this season has gone way darker than the show has ever gone. Not as dark as some of the audios have gone.
That's true. Well, the audios aren't limited by... See, the audios are kind of...
The audios are aimed at 40-year-olds.
Yeah, I was going to say the audios aren't really aimed at kids, especially since it requires a disposable income to acquire them, whereas...
Well...
I mean, it requires... In America, you have to pay to watch these... on TV, I guess, but...
We don't really have to pay for any of this. I mean, if you know how to get it.
Well, also it airs on BBC America, and PBS used to rerun a lot of the old shows. And PBS is public and free as long as you have a TV and like an antenna. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so Russell T. writes this story after seeing how much he liked the actress who plays Margaret's performance in Aliens of London in World War III. So he wrote this because he was like, hey, we should bring her back and do some cool things. And also apparently Russell T. was super against the death penalty, so he wanted to weave that into the story.
Well, he did. Not very well, but he did. And yeah, she's a good actor. I don't know her name, but she's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, just didn't realize this while I was watching, or when we watched the original Slitheen story, Aliens of London and World War III. It kind of reminds me of that one high school teacher. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Kind of. I don't think she was missing a tooth.
No,
had a
she
massive
wasn't.
Gap in her teeth. I'm not sure which one.
That was really distracting. And I didn't notice it, like, in World War III.
Yeah, neither did I, but...
Because she wasn't as big a part of that episode, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of distracting here.
Anyway, so the Doctor... Well, actually, so the story begins with a recap of Aliens of London and World War III, which is necessary in case you missed those weeks.
Yeah, but if you did miss those weeks, it would Would this recap really clue you in into what's going on?
No.
No, I think the dialogue of the episode would actually tell you more about what's going on in the recap. So
Yeah, and the recap kind of leads immediately into Margaret killing a nuclear physicist who has some qualms about the nuclear reactor she wants to build in the middle of Cardiff.
Yeah, okay, so this was the funny part. This is 6 months after World War III, and Margaret has become the mayor of Cardiff. I guess it makes sense since she was posing as a politician.
She was posing as the Prime Minister's driver.
Oh yeah, she wasn't a politician, she was just a driver. But yeah, I had those political connections, so, you know.
I guess.
But still, it's like 6 months later and you're in this top position. Then again, like, I don't know much about Cardiff, but based on the dialogue of this episode, the British government doesn't care about Cardiff/Wales at all.
I guess. Maybe it's just kind of... Maybe it's less that the British government doesn't explicitly care and more so that the people are just better that it seems like the government's
that
not
Welsh
caring.
whining? No, I'm just kidding.
Unfortunately, I'm not extremely well versed in British interior politics.
No, I'm not either.
It's a bit outside my field of expertise, so to speak.
I have seen that building multiple times, though. The one with the big words on it. Yeah. I watched a documentary about, the Welsh language, and like half the documentary was just interviewing this one guy in front of this building.
This kind of reminds me, I watched The Foreigner yesterday, and The Foreigner is set in Britain, and it talks all about the IRA and the IRA's current affairs. I'm like, I don't understand any of this because I don't have a working knowledge of the IRA. Anyway,
the TARDIS lands in front of that famous building.
Cardiff's only famous building, I guess. Or the most recognizable building. This
is one of the things I like about, the UK and I guess Europe, actually, and maybe just anywhere that isn't the Americas, is that you see all these modern-looking buildings like that one building and like the fountain and stuff, but nearby there are all these old-looking buildings, and it's just kind of a cool contrast. I guess because we don't really have much like that in the U.S.
Yeah, because a lot of the U.S. is kind of stratified. You have like a city that's like all really old, and then you have like 3 blocks of nothingness, and then you have the new buildings. Like they're not really that close to each other.
Yeah, well, especially here in California, it's mostly just all new stuff.
Yeah, and especially the weird thing about California is that when they're building new houses, they try to make them as close to the in design to the older houses as possible. At least in and that's partially because the company owns everything. So, so Rose calls up Mickey, and Mickey shows up, and they're like, "Hey, Mickey!" And also, I want to make a note of the fact that the Doctor is standing on the second floor of the console room. That second floor we mentioned when we talked about the console room, and I said I thought was never used ever. Turns out it's used in this story because the Doctor's up there fixing something.
Yeah.
And Jack's like under the console doing some things.
Yeah, so as soon as Mickey walks in, the Doctor gets all jealous, and I was like, oh god, this is what this episode's going to be about, isn't it?
Turns out not really.
Well, it kind of was. I don't know. I just hate love triangles. I kind of hate where they're going with this.
It's not really a love triangle anymore because Mickey moved on.
No, it's not anymore. They kind of ended in this episode, but I think they're going to bring Mickey back at some point.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think he actually gets probably pretty major part next story. Huh. Maybe not next episode, but next story.
Huh.
I remember him. Either next story or a story next season.
That's weird since the next story takes place on the game station. Perfect opportunity to bring that one memorable villain back.
The Jagrafess?
Yeah. Anyway, they decide to go eat lunch. Actually, the Doctor explains the chameleon circuit, I think, for the first time this season.
Yeah.
Which is nice since probably a lot of people watching this are newcomers who have no knowledge of the original series and don't really deserve to be watching the show. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but it is nice that they throw it in for people who don't really know what it is, but they don't really integrate it into the story well. It's just Jack asking, like, hey, why does the TARDIS not camouflage itself? Or, I don't know, they bring it up
Jack says, why does it look like a police box?
Yeah.
And also because Mickey's like, when people see a police box, like, wouldn't they know it's out of place? And then the doctor explains the police box, and then Mickey says, like, they were actually real police boxes, and the doctor's like, Mickey, yes! Mickey, how can you be so dense?
Mickey, you're an idiot. Yeah, Doctor also imparts a vital piece of human knowledge, I guess, which is if you see an out-of-place looking police box, you'll just walk by it.
Which is true, because most people won't want to get involved.
Yeah.
So they go for lunch, I guess, on the wharf. Looks like they're on the wharf.
Yeah, I think they're on the wharf. And they're being the loudest, most obnoxious group in the restaurant. Did you notice that?
Yeah, but they seem to be having a pretty good time. They also seem to be like one of only 2 groups in the restaurant.
Yeah, only
anyway.
like 2 or 3 groups in there. The other groups don't really seem to care, but still. And then the doctor does this other jerkish thing where he sees Margaret. He sees a guy reading a newspaper, and Margaret's on it, and he just goes and snatches the paper out of the guy's hand.
Yeah, that was kind of a jerk move, I agree. And the guy's just... the guy's the nicest guy about it because he doesn't say anything and kind of just looks disappointingly at the doctor like, man...
not again. No, I'm just kidding.
It happens to him on a regular basis. Just someone stealing his newspapers.
Oh, we skipped the part with the reporter.
Oh, yeah, so a reporter...
Margaret's describing the new nuclear reactor to investors, I guess.
Yeah.
Or to other politicians.
Yeah, and they're like all happy about it. They're all really happy that they're building a nuclear reactor. Not only are they building a nuclear reactor in the middle of Cardiff, they're going to bulldoze Cardiff Castle to build the reactor.
In with the new, out with the old.
So there's a reporter talking about the nuclear physicist from the beginning. He apparently posted some of his findings online. If you know where to look, apparently. I don't know why you wouldn't just make it more public. But anyway.
Maybe it would get him killed.
Well, he got killed anyway, so... Not that he knew that was going to happen. So Margaret...
They call her Lord Mayor.
Yeah, I think that's like a local thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked into it. And actually, I already knew this, but I looked it up just to be sure. And Lord is like a Germanic origin word, whereas Mayor is like French / Celtic / Romance language. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I thought it was a bit excessive.
So she takes the reporter to the restroom, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the reporter wants to talk, and the reporter is mentioning how a lot of people have died mysteriously recently, and Margaret keeps writing it off like, yeah, the ice was really slippery, you just slipped, and those lights were really bright, I couldn't stop my car in time.
Yeah, no, so they all sound like reasonable explanations till she gets to the nuclear physicist who apparently got decapitated.
They don't really sound reasonable. I couldn't stop my car in time, so I just ran the guy
get
over.
More unreasonable.
Yeah, I guess.
So, like, she slipped on ice. It's like he was decapitated. It was really slippery ice. So she takes the reporter to the restroom. This restroom that has a massive, like,
it's a
foyer.
Very extravagant restroom.
It has a massive foyer with, like, coat racks and then, like, stairs leading down to the sink and then, like, one stall. So she goes into the stall. Margaret goes into the stall and, like, removes her skin suit and is talking with the reporter. And the reporter's like, oh man, gonna get married in a month.
Just I'm pregnant.
Yeah, bringing back that Father's Day thing where they're just getting married because she's pregnant.
I mean, she says like, yeah, I'm okay with it. She says it was a surprise, but a happy surprise. So at least
she says
there's
it was
that.
An accident. A happy accident.
Whatever.
So they're getting married, and then Margaret decides not to kill her. And Margaret mentions that all of her brothers are dead. But then later in the story, Margaret tells the doctor there's like hundreds of other Slovene strewn across the galaxy.
Or maybe they're not her brothers. Maybe they're just her extended family.
Maybe.
Anyway, Margaret starts to feel bad and decides not to kill her.
For no apparent reason.
Yeah, they don't really expand on this, actually.
Margaret mentions it later when she's trying to save herself.
But then
Margaret reveals that she hasn't really repented her ways at all. So
yeah, so
So,
well, actually, I wanted to mention that we can clearly see the zipper this time, whereas like it was sometimes clear the last time.
Classic.
But yeah, here it's pretty clear.
Not later when the doctor's talking with Margaret in the restaurant. It's completely gone again.
Well, I mean, you can only see it when she starts unzipping it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Doctor and his posse go to the mayor's office, I guess, and Jack lays out this elaborate plan. He's like, we're going to do a classic 56-57 maneuver. Doctor, you take exit 1, make first contact. I'll take exit 2, Rose, you take exit 3, that's to the east. Mickey, you take exit 4, that's to the north. And the Doctor's like, excuse me, I'm in charge here. And then he's like, alright, good plan, we'll do that. What Jack said.
Yeah, I said Jack was only comic relief here, but yeah, maybe they're sort of establishing some rivalry between Jack and the Doctor. Or maybe not, I don't know. We'll see where they go with it.
It's kind of a friendly rivalry, I think, because they seem to have a lot of kind of funny jokes with each other. Like when Mickey shows up at the beginning, Jack makes a joke about how Rose is so in love with Mickey, and he's like, what do I have to do to get some of that around you? And the Doctor's like, buy me dinner first. And Jack's like, oh man. And the Doctor's like, but it's worth it.
I guess foreshadowing the dinner that they have later that Jack doesn't go to, so I guess not. Anyway, they pull their classic maneuver, and Mickey ruins it as I expected he would.
Well, you're forgetting the humorous part. So the Doctor goes to
where he has his leg in the trash can.
So the Doctor goes to the secretary, and he's like, just tell the mayor that the Doctor is here to see her. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he goes in, and then you hear this tea cup drop and break.
I didn't hear that, actually. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So, and then he comes out the door and he's like really stuttering and nervous. He's like, she's busy up to her eyes in paperwork. And the Doctor's like, she's climbing out the window, isn't she? And he's like, yeah. Yeah.
So the Doctor runs in and catches Margaret jumping out the window. And there's some convenient scaffolding for her to run down. But in the end, she's cornered by all 4 of them. And the Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to teleport her back whenever she tries to run away.
Yeah, because Mickey covers the north exit and she's taking the north exit, and then Mickey gets caught up because of the cleaning lady, which you can't really blame him, but he does end up with his leg in the washing bucket, which you can blame him for because he could have avoided that.
But why would you want to?
I don't know. I feel really bad for Mickey after this story. Like,
no,
worse
I mean,
than
why
normal.
would you want to evade the wash bucket?
Oh, because you don't want to get your shoe wet?
Well, I do.
Okay.
Don't you just love the sensation of wet socks?
Not really.
Anyway, yeah, they corner
Margaret.
And
they...
you kind of feel bad for Mickey later on. He does seem like he's kind of moved on. Well, maybe. We'll get there.
So the Doctor's like, we're going to take you back to your home planet, and Margaret's like, they have the death penalty there. The Doctor's like, not my problem.
Yeah. So Margaret is obviously just trying to garner a sense of pity. But then later on, she convinces you that she's actually changed, but then later on, she just ruins it all.
Also calls into the question, is there really the death penalty on Raxacora califactorius?
Is that really what it's called, or are you just...
I'm just attempting to pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't know. They make a big deal about it later when Rose gets it right, and I was like, wow, congrats, you got the name of this one planet right. There's no need to be so celebratory about it, but they are, so whatever.
So they take it back to the TARDIS. Oh, we forgot to mention the reason why they landed in Cardiff, which is because they're trying to refuel off the time rift from the Unquiet Dead.
Yeah.
Which is apparently now a time scar.
Yeah.
Which then opens back into a time rift after the story, thanks to what they've done to it. Yeah, because apparently the TARDIS needs to refuel.
Yeah, that's never been the case, like, ever.
And I don't think it's ever the case again. So, Jack, well, they take Margaret back inside to the nuclear reactor, and the Doctor notices the name of the project is, like, Blair Droog or something, and he's like, how'd you come up with that name? And she's like, I don't know, it just came to me. And he's like, that's Welsh for Bad Wolf. That's really weird. Bad Wolf has been following us around for the past... I don't know how many weeks, and Rose is like, yeah, everywhere we go, I see it.
Past 10 weeks, it's been in every story. Yeah, it's weird that they bring it up here in this way, sort of mentioning how they've put it into every story, because if you didn't notice it at all throughout the season, then this would just kind of seem out of nowhere, like, what, Bad Wolf has been following them? I mean, I didn't think they were actually going to explicitly mention all the inserts of Bad Wolf throughout the previous 10 episodes, but...
Yeah. While I was watching this, I actually realized that a lot of the story introduces things that are going to be used next story.
Well, the season's actually been doing a good job of things like that, like bringing back the time rift from Cardiff, so...
Yeah, this season's done a good job of kind of linking everything together in a satisfactory way. I just mean that like a lot of the things that it's introducing in this story is it's kind of saving time for the next 2 weeks because
Yeah, I guess that makes
and
sense.
also so that the next 2 weeks it won't feel like the things they're using are completely out of nowhere because they were introduced before. So, and also if I recall correctly, the resolution of the bad wolf is not as explicit as the Doctor calling it out in this. So it kind of feels like it might be necessary for the Doctor to explicitly call it out first so that you can understand what happens. But we'll see because I don't quite remember the specifics. Anyway, so Jack, or the Doctor, realizes that the model of the nuclear reactor is actually like a hoverboard or like a pan-dimensional surfboard.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Because apparently Margaret intended to blow up the world and ride the shockwave. Calls into question how Margaret knew about the time rift in Cardiff, but whatever.
She must have found out about it somehow. I'm not really too concerned about that part.
She does seem really evasive about how she came into possession of the pan-dimensional surfboard.
Well, Jack says there's no way she could have possibly built it because it's beyond her knowledge or whatever, but then she does imply that she built it.
Well, she implies she built it before Jack says there's no way you built this because it's beyond your knowledge.
Yeah, she says she built it before he says that, and then he's like, no way, and then I forget what the line was, but then she says something that's like, really? Like,
I don't think she built it.
Yeah, they don't really say whether she built it or not, but I think she did.
It seems really obvious that she didn't to me.
Seems really obvious that she did to me. Out of what? I don't know, but yeah.
They take Margaret back to the TARDIS as the prisoner, I guess. And so they're in the TARDIS, and Jack's like, well, I guess we could use this board to knock off 12 hours of recharge so we can take her back sooner. Doctor's like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, and Margaret guilt trips everyone by saying, look into my eyes. These are the eyes of the person you're about to kill.
Yeah,
all of you are my executioners.
She's like, do you think I deserve it? Mickey immediately is like, yes. And she's like, really? How does that make you better than me? And I'm like, considering Mickey launched the missile that killed the rest of your family and he thought he killed you, I really think out of all four of these people, Mickey's the one who will care the least if you die.
Well, he didn't think that he killed her. He thought he killed all of them, including her, but he didn't know her specifically.
Yeah. But still.
I mean, that's like the thing, like, when you're just sitting at a computer launching missiles, or this actually has to do with like contemporary warfare, but when you're just sitting at a computer controlling drones or firing things or whatever, it's a lot different than when you're actually like face to face with a person.
Yeah, because you're detached from the actual act of doing it.
Yeah.
There's no
That's why they say it's a lot easier.
Connection.
Yeah, and like even taking it a step further, that's why they say it's a lot easier to like shoot someone than stab someone or something like that.
But still, it's also like Mickey's not the one who's making the decision to take her back to her home planet. I mean,
no, he's not. And
Mickey really has no horse in this race.
He seems pretty on board with killing her, actually. He does avert his eyes when she's like, look into my eyes.
So Mickey goes outside, and Rose comes outside. He's like, we could go get pizza, maybe get a hotel room.
Yeah, okay, so... All right, so what is it with Mickey and pizza, right? Because, like, when he was controlled by the Autons, he was like, pizza, and then here, I mean, he's obviously not controlled, and he still wants pizza, so, like...
Maybe he just hasn't got his pizza yet. He's
been really wanting pizza for, like, a year and a half, and he hasn't had it.
Yeah, maybe. Like, maybe he's just never had pizza because Rose has been gone because it was, like, their thing. Now Rose is back.
Now he eats pizza with Trisha, or whatever her name was. He was like, yeah, maybe we could go get a hotel room or something.
You know what he's implying, which calls into question later, is he cheating on his new girlfriend? But anyway, so...
Yeah, could have mentioned the new girlfriend after they got the hotel room.
So
No, anyway, the Doctor and...
Jack.
Well, actually, Margaret asks for a last meal.
The Doctor's like, there's too many people out there that you could kill. I don't think that's a good idea. And Jack's like, well, I've got these convenient plot device bracelets.
Yeah, okay, so what these do is that when Margaret, they're going to attach one handcuff to Margaret and one to the Doctor, and they're not connected to each other. But if Margaret gets more than 10 feet, or however much it was, away from the Doctor, she'll get like 10,000 volts
Yeah.
or something. And I totally thought that these were just going to be a bluff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that it was going to somehow come into play later, but they don't. So I guess we never figure out whether they're real or not.
Nope. Also, where did Captain Jack get those?
Just carrying him in his back pocket all along.
It's like, man, I may really need these.
Just
He's
like
like a
how
hoarder.
what's his face. Just like how what's his face was carrying the chloroform in his pocket. Never know when you might need this.
So the doctor says, okay, I guess we can go for a meal. And in the first 10 minutes of this meal, she tries to kill the doctor 3 different ways. First, she poisons his drink and he swaps the drinks. And then she tries to shoot a poison dart out of her finger and he catches it. And then she tries to exhale a poison into his lungs, I guess. And then he just neutralizes that. So she kind of gives up on trying to kill the doctor there. Kind of really undermines her whole I've changed and I don't kill people anymore claim that she makes not 3 minutes later.
Yeah, because now she confronts the doctor about how she's changed, and she brings up the story about how she didn't kill the reporter. But the doctor says that, even when you've killed hundreds or thousands or whatever, you justify it to yourself by not killing certain people out of supposed kindness.
Yeah.
And then Margaret sort of flips it on the doctor, like, and you're not going to kill me out of kindness, are you, doctor?
Well, first she says there's only one way you could know that, and that'd be if you were a murderer too, and the doctor kind of glares at her and then looks away.
I'm guessing this has something to do with the Time War or whatever.
Well, also, every time the doctor shows up, because right before they go to the dinner, Margaret says, this is the first time you've had to face consequences, isn't it, doctor? You always leave, and you never have to face the consequences of what you've done. Which isn't true, because it's twice, at least, in the show that the doctor's faced consequences of his actions. There's the face of evil, and then there's also the arc way back in the first Doctor's era, like one of the first stories of the show where the Doctor accidentally puts the monoids in control.
God, I forgot about the arc.
So
the only thing I remember from the arc is when Susan calls the monoid on his bluff, and it's like,
The only thing I remember, was it Susan or was it Dodo?
It was Susan. No,
Either way.
Actually, I don't remember.
I thought
No, it was Dodo.
I thought that was a Dodo and Steven story, yeah.
Yeah.
When the doctor comes back the second time and they go to the statue and Dodo's like, that's not right, and it pans up and it's a monoid head. But anyway, yeah, so the doctor doesn't typically face consequences, and I guess the doctor talking about justifying murder is kind of, I guess, slightly alluding to the fact that a lot of the times when he's trying to save some people, he inadvertently or deliberately kills some of the quote-unquote villains.
Yeah, and I mean, there are those couple stories where the doctor does face consequences, but like the overwhelming majority of the stories he doesn't, so...
Yeah, and I mean, there's not strictly a problem with that. I mean, it's kind of a jerk move to just leave. But at the same time, it's also, he doesn't want to have to face all the questions and all the thank yous and everything, so it can be seen either way. Depends on the situation, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So then Margaret is like, well, so you're just going to kill me? And the doctor's like, it's not my problem. And she's like, really? And he's like, I don't make the law. And she's like, yeah, but you execute it. And he's like, yeah, I guess.
She tells him that there are a bunch of other Slitheen out there and that she wants to be taken to another planet. But Doctor says, like, yeah, that's not happening or something.
Yeah, he says that she could just start again. I guess kind of a contrast to the Visitation when the pterodactyls are like, if you take us home, we're going to get shot and killed. And Doc's like, I'll just take you somewhere else. But then all the pterodactyls get burned to death anyway, so... That situation was conveniently resolved for the Doctor, like in this story.
Yeah, I guess. Meanwhile, Mickey reveals to Rose that... Well, actually, first Rose is discussing her adventures with Mickey, and she mentions some pretty cool things that they probably didn't have the budget to show.
Well, she also mentions a story that occurred in one of the novels, because Russell T was trying to link the show with novels more, so he explicitly...
That idea.
So Rose explicitly mentions one of the planets they visited in one of the novels.
Huh.
Apparently. Yeah, and then Mickey's like... You feel pretty bad for Mickey in this scene, because he's like, man, wish I had been on those cool adventures. Or,
well,
man...
no, I didn't feel... At first, I kind of did feel bad for him, but then I was like, well, it was his decision not to go, because he said he couldn't handle it, so... And the Doctor would have taken him if he wanted to.
Yeah, but at the same time, I also feel bad for him, because, like... You know, he just wants to spend an evening with Rose, and all she can talk about is the Doctor.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
Anyway, then Mickey reveals that he's been dating Trisha from the shop, I guess. And Rose is like, Trisha, you don't even like her. And Mickey's like,
she's lost
how would
weight,
you
okay?
know? Like, how would you know?
Yeah, so
Rose is like, oh, okay. And Mickey's like, you were gone. What did you want me to do? I can't just keep waiting around for you. Which kind of sucks, because every time you call, I'm going to come running anyway. So I really need you to, like, stop, please. So
yeah,
then,
kind of dislike the whole love triangle subplot they're really pushing in this story.
well, they kind of threw it all away with Mickey falling in love with someone else.
Yeah, so hopefully he doesn't come back.
So then they hear the sound of
Something.
silence. The sound of lightning and
You mean thunder?
Sorry. Well, the sound of lightning is thunder, technically. But anyway.
Well, can't you have lightning without thunder and vice versa?
Well, you can have...
You have thunder without lightning.
Thunder always occurs with lightning. The thing is, you won't always hear it because sound dissipates over distance, whereas light doesn't.
I don't know if I believe that. Like, it sounds pretty unreasonable. Or
True.
Unreal, rather.
It's true, though, if the lightning's far enough away.
Know.
Considering I'm the physicist here.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I think I do. Anyway, they go running to the TARDIS, and the TARDIS is, like, opening the time rift, and Jack's like, I don't know what's going on. The regulator's, like, connected, but I've disconnected it, and it's still feeding off the rift. And the Doc's like, well, looks like we've been outwitted by Margaret. Because she, like, rips off her hand and takes Rose hostage. Mickey stays behind at the wharf. He's like, yeah, you go running off. I'm going to stay here because I'm over you.
I'm just going to stay here and brood.
In the shadows.
So, yeah, Margaret takes Rose hostage and asks for the, whatever it was called, the surfboard
Pan-dimensional
thing.
surfboard. And the Doctor's like, yeah, just give it to her, whatever. And then, okay, the resolution to the story is completely out of left field.
Well, I mean, I kind of like it. I thought they integrated it better than the whole chameleon circuit thing. Well, the reveal that the TARDIS is alive, that is.
Well, okay.
Not revealed because it's
I
been
have a
revealed
pretty
before.
big problem with the way this story resolves, but I'll mention it after we've explained how it resolves. Because so basically what happens...
Probably unreasonable.
The TARDIS opens up and, like, reveals the heart of the TARDIS to Margaret, and apparently, like, telepathically communicates with her, and she's like, thank you, Doctor, and then reverts back to egg state because of reasons.
Yeah, kind of reminded me of those immortal jellyfish who, like, go back to being... Go back to their, like, child state when they're about to die. Those things are pretty cool and creepy, actually.
And so then the Doctor's like, well, I guess we can just take this egg, drop it in the hatchery, and she can live a new life.
The egg looks really grotesque. It has, like, tendrils coming off of it, and... Yeah. And they just cook it up and have a big omelet. No, I'm just kidding.
Jeez. And then Rose is like, oh, wait, before we go, I gotta go make sure Mickey's okay. And she runs, and Mickey's, like, gone, and he's, like, standing in the alleyway behind him, and he just leaves. And then she comes back, and she's like, he's gone. And the Doc's like, we can wait. You can go find him. And Rose is like, nah, he deserves better than me. And I'm like, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And then they leave.
Yep.
Then we get a preview for next week that spoils the best reveal of the entire season.
That it's the Daleks.
Yes. I mean, it's a huge reveal because there hasn't been a season to this point, I think, where the Daleks appeared in more than one story. So the fact that they already appeared in a story called Dalek, you wouldn't expect them to show up in the last episode. More so than normal, you wouldn't expect the Daleks to show up. Especially since in Dalek, the Doctor's like, the Daleks are all dead, I killed them all.
Yeah, but that's always been the case for, like, they're all dead. Yep, definitely wiped them all out this time. But yeah, I guess there hasn't been another season with 2 Dalek stories in it.
In which maybe the naming of the story Dalek was like an intentional way to... So that even if you hadn't seen the episode, you would know that the Daleks had already appeared in the season.
I mean, if you look up the episode titles, sure.
Open up your radio times. Anyway,
or just Google it. This is 2005 after all.
My big problem with the ending is that it doesn't... It's like, it feels like a convenient cop-out to the whole... Because they were building up this whole moral dilemma about whether or not the Doctor had the right to take Margaret back and basically kill her. Even though he wasn't killing her directly, he would be condemning her to death. And then it feels like they came up with this really cop-out ending where the Doctor didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah,
and it
he
just
didn't have to
resolved itself for him.
Yeah, he didn't have to make a choice in the end.
And that really bummed me out because I actually liked the moral dilemma they were setting up. Like, can the Doctor just basically unilaterally declare this person to be so bad that they have to be killed? Like, I wanted there to be a resolution to that through the Doctor somehow. I wanted the Doctor to make a choice either way, or for the Doctor himself to come up with an alternative third solution that would have made both parties happy.
Yeah, but then again, like we were mentioning before, the show hasn't really gotten that dark, so...
I mean, they didn't even need to get that dark with it. I mean, the taking her to a planet where there's a death penalty is pretty dark, but the Doctor could have come up with an alternative solution that, you know, maybe he could have condemned her to stay on Earth as a human forever. Like, maybe he could have sewn her suits.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't work.
Stuck.
Shut. I actually did kind of like it because they integrated it with the reveal, the reveal for the new series, I guess, that the TARDIS is alive and has a mind of its own. Well, I think they hinted at it already.
Yeah, the Doctor says that he's already mentioned the TARDIS is telepathic because, you know, it gets into your mind and translates all the words for you.
Yeah. So I kind of liked it. It was kind of a weird sort of scene where the light's shining in her face and, yeah, kind of just out there.
The reveal is okay. My problem with the ending isn't so much the execution so much as the actual concept.
The execution.
The actual concept of the ending, which is that the Doctor doesn't have to do anything because by sheer luck, basically, the problem gets resolved for him.
Yeah, I guess. Well, also, I guess plays into the TARDIS's character, whatever little character that it has. So, yeah. But they put the egg on the console.
And also, like, the ending does feel a little out of left field because it almost feels like the ending is that they had to have some sort of big world-ending event coming up so that there would be some quote-unquote sense of urgency to the story. Like, they were doing just fine, because legitimately the TARDIS starts ripping the world apart with 10 minutes left in the story. Like, until that point, the actual conflict has been, can the Doctor condemn Margaret to death?
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, the Time Rift opening doesn't really have much to do with Margaret taking Rose. It only gives Margaret the opportunity to take Rose hostage while the Doctor is distracted. That's pretty much the only way it relates to that.
Yeah, well, also Margaret mentions, like, oh yeah, the board, like, is programmed to use whatever power source it's connected to, and I'm like, really? But, I don't know.
But that's that.
Yeah, Mickey's gone off.
Apparently he comes back next week.
Well, next week for us, not necessarily next story. Jack. Man, I really like Captain Jack. He's pretty funny. I didn't remember him being so fun when I watched this the first time.
He's not that funny, I mean...
He's more funny than everybody else.
I guess, but still, I didn't laugh.
He's really charismatic, too. He's wearing, like, a massive wrist thing, which is, if I remember correctly, his vortex manipulator, which is basically his personal time travel watch, which kind of explains why he's able to time travel later. But anyway, that's enough of that, I guess. So next week we're done with the Ninth Doctor. The week after we'll have his retrospective, and then we'll be on to the Christmas invasion. So you can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on nuclear power plants.
In the middle of cities.
Nuclear power plants are actually very safe. Reason why Chernobyl went up, mainly due to user error and also a flaw in the design that should have been caught way before it was even built. But anyway... You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play, all at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time, we're watching Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. But till then, the end.